Welcome, everyone, to Weekly Tax Update, episode 86 for the week of December 22nd, 2023. A lot of great material today, so we'll take it as best we can without racing through it too much. If you are a subscriber for free, you can watch Hector Garcia's Basics of ChatGPT for Accountants Tax Office AI. I think it's a fabulous program. If you don't know anything about generative AI or ChatGPT at all, take a look at this. It's a great 2 hours to spend during your time off this week. Weird Science is my ethics program from Giving Tuesday, also available on demand if you're an enrolled agent and need ethics between now and year end. We just ask that you please take it by the 29th so that we can make sure to see your grade and process the CE credit. If you're a subscriber and you're interested in the annual federal tax refresher, annual filing season program to have the AFSP after your name and appear in the AFSP database, that is available as well. It's no cost if you're already a subscriber. So that's available again through the 29th of December. That's kind of a cutoff with the IRS. You have to pass this program by the 31st, and the way the holidays fell this year, the 29th will be the last day. Please to take it. If you're not a subscriber, we invite you to become one for the new year. $52 a month gets you unlimited CE. All of this stuff that we offer live, about 200 hours of live material, plus 200 to 300 hours of recorded material, depending when you join us during the year. If you are a sole practitioner and need additional help, need help with research, need help just with second opinions of things, join the tax season support program for $997. You have three opportunities per week, total of about 4.5 hours, to come on and get your questions answered. Fridays for 90 minutes at 3 p.m. Tuesdays, along with our year-round group, from 7 to 9 p.m. And that Ellie Jones joins me for both of those sessions. Wednesday night at 7 p.m., we have all the international questions, please. And Rita Ryan from Wolf & Company joins me to answer the international questions. So great opportunity, 45 sessions, 45 possibilities to get your questions answered, almost 200 hours of Q&A time for $997. Looking ahead, I won't read this to you, but January, we have a whole bunch of programs, which in my opinion are the things I meant to learn in the off season. And a couple of things that we had just thought about that folks are asking questions on or there are concerns on, including Form 926 depreciation. Reading the tax code is coming back with Donna Byrne. Reading the standard K1 footnotes, all those crazy standardized footnotes, you'll be able to catch those with Rita Ryan.
Theft, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
I hate it when I work alone. Okay, so upcoming IRS webinars are available. January 10th, frequently asked questions about due diligence. I think that's a great tax season refresher. Sailing through the rules of refundable tax credits, also a great tax season refresher. Those are both free, 1 credit from the IRS. For those who have forgotten, your PTIN needs to be renewed by December 31st in order for you to prepare any tax returns during 2024. IRS says it will take you 15 minutes. It took me about 4. Maybe the biggest thing is remembering your PTIN and what name appears on your tax return. But you need to take care of this, please. Fee is $19.75, which is based on several lawsuits. It's just the technology fee. This is what it costs the IRS to administer this program. EA renewals, as you know, if you're an enrolled agent, every third year, your EA renews. This year, if you have a 789 or no SSN at all, you need to renew. The window is open for timely renewal through January 31st, and there's rules in Circular 230 on it. But you go online, use Form 8554 on the pay.gov website. It's very quick. Before you log in, just make sure you know how many credits you earned each year. Make sure you earned 2 Ethics CE each year. If you need to earn some ethics, by all means, we have them available. 3 different ethics programs are available on the on-demand platform. Business e-file, as we previously mentioned, shuts down on the 26th at 11:59 a.m. Now, we saw a surprising announcement the other day. Some providers, mostly the software packages provided by Intuit, were shutting down on the 21st. So most of those programs are probably already shut down. If you were looking to e-file one last return, not enough. All right, so big news. We have a resumption of collection notices coming out. So the IRS has announced that in January, they're going to start sending out all those notices. They're rebooting everybody, and you're going to get all the usual notices about what you owe. Businesses, tax-exempt organizations, trusts, and estates, everybody with debt prior to 2023. Individuals prior to 2022, businesses prior to 2023. Now, this has been paused starting in March of 2020 due to the pandemic. We've already seen the 2022 CP14s coming out, so they're underway. There's a couple of pictures on the internet. I didn't grab one, but some of our colleagues with 40 and 50 trays of mail. Those trays of mail hold like 500 letters. So can you imagine getting 8,000 or 10,000 notices? Initial notices, though, were unaffected by the pause. So the pause in collection mailings affected follow-up reminders, not the first balance due notice. So you should have gotten CP14s or CP161s all along, but all of those follow-up notices weren't coming out. So LT38, taxpayers with long-standing tax debts who haven't received a notice in over a year are going to get a special reminder on a form LT38, advising them of their liability and prompting them to contact the IRS and make payment arrangements. ATX shut down MEF yesterday, someone said. ATX is a CCH product, right? So moving forward again with our resumption of collection notices. After the reminder, the taxpayers are going to receive the further notices that they would normally get. And, 30 days, 60 days, we're going to lien or levy you. Taxpayers are going to be urged within these letters to carefully read the notices, visit the irs.gov, call your practitioner. I don't think they're going to tell us that. The IRS is going to gradually issue these notices to ensure taxpayers and tax pros can reach IRS assistance if needed. This has been the problem. If you've got 20 or 30 million people who owe something, or 10 million, and you're going to need to mail out three or four notices each. There's just no way the IRS can handle it. Probably no way the postal system can handle it. So they're sending these out in groups. And the IRS reminds us of what penalties people need to pay. But I think most people know what penalties they need to pay. So much for that. Yeah. All right. So TIGTA sent out a note this morning. TIGTA is the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration. $72.4 billion they collected through enforcement activities, and the year ended September 30th, 2023, right? The fiscal year 2022. So that's 1.5% of the total revenue they collected, which is good for them. 58% of this comes from taxpayers responding to IRS notices. So let me get this straight. Forget about all these field people and all their other excuses. Half the money they're bringing in comes from sending out a CP2000. Apparently. And as you know from my comments and previous TIGTA audits, automated underreporter, AUR, only works 15% of the cases they are able to identify. Forget about the cases they can't identify. So it's mind-blowing if we threw more money into telephone answering and more money into these systems, how much minimal effort revenue could they bring in? There are 8,855 IRS examiners as of the end of the fiscal year, and that's actually down 341 over the prior fiscal year. These guys did 708,000 examinations, but 79% of those were via notices, and they collected $30.2 billion. So let me get this straight. 59% of our, 15% of the identified automation underreports, with only 60% complying, got them more money, $72.4 billion. So there's something to be said about use of automation and computer matching. And we'll go over this in more detail probably next week. It's a slow news week. I think it will be. There's more information came out this week on IRS's direct file pilot. And some of this is my opinion reading into this. But some taxpayers are going to be able to use the free file system. It's designed to be mobile friendly. It will be written in English and Spanish. I haven't seen more on that, but so I don't know if that means it's going to have a button probably to push or two separate websites, but it says it's going to be available in English and Spanish. Taxpayers who are residents of Arizona, California, Florida, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, you can read the list, are eligible. I was surprised they put New York and California in there because of the complexities of those states. The other 8 states have no personal income tax for state tax, no state personal income tax. So not surprising they're using those states. Also South Dakota, Wyoming, not too populous a state. There's a contradictory piece of information in here that we will need an ID.me account, but then it says further down that there'll be an option to do a live chat, which to identify yourself. So I wasn't sure if you have 2 options here, ID.me and a live chat, or if you have to if you can use one or the other, or if it's really only ID.me. And that seems to make the most sense to me, that it would be only ID.me would be available. That's the direction they're moving in. Other limitations on the pilot. Now, this is the first I've seen some serious limitations, and this actually makes sense. So you can't expect to roll out a full-blown software package, client-facing, that's going to both solve all of the user interface issues and otherwise work correctly and not need a lot of help. So they've limited the forms and schedules and income types one can have on the pilot. W-2s, 1099s from Social Security, unemployment compensation, 1099 interest income. Noticeably missing. No retirement, right? So if you have a pension, have an IRA distribution, you're not going to be able to use the direct file pilot. 1099 interest. So credits. The only credits that it'll support are the earned income credit, the child tax credit, and the credit for other dependents. It will support the standard deduction, student loan interest, and educator expenses. No other adjustments to income, no other deductions. Why? Well, you're going to see. If you look at what's missing, you'll see why some of those adjustments are missing. So noticeably missing, this is my comment, Schedule A, Schedule C, Schedule E. So anybody who's got their own side gig, side hustle, small business, not going to be able to use the software. Schedule F too. Rental property on Schedule E, none of these are available. I was surprised the child care credit wasn't supported, because the child care credit, I would have thought the child care credit would have been something supported. Katie's making a comment in the comment section over here that seems like it's geared towards workers. I agree. That's why I would have thought the 2441. I also would have thought the 8880, where at a time where we are encouraging employers to automatically register people in retirement plans, we're not going to give people the ability to do an 8880. Same comment too, is these folks seem to be the most likely to have a premium tax credit. Premium tax credit is not available on the pilot either. So what are they looking to do? Certainly this isn't the final version by all means. They want to see if this works. They probably want to have a number they want to get, 1 million people, 2 million people, I don't know. And this is how they're going to do that. TIGTA released a study on ITINs this week. ITIN is a tax processing number issued by the IRS. I think you know this. For individuals who have a tax filing requirement and their tax dependents who are not eligible for a Social Security number. You follow a process, identify yourself, and they assign an ITIN. Not a new concept. Been around. As of December 31st, 2022, the IRS has issued 26 million ITINs since the program's inception. Not by itself a startling number. 5.8 million people have active ITINs. That seemed a little high. I didn't believe that. 487,000 new ones were issued in the last year. Now, the IRS has said forever and a day, you can only use an ITIN for a tax return. It's not work authorization. You can't use it to be a subcontractor and get a 1099 miscellaneous, right? This isn't what they're thinking. The rest of us have said, yeah, okay. So TIGTA, and it always does a thorough background because these studies are going to be read by congressmen, taxpayers, other stakeholders, right? Other than tax practitioners are going to read a TIGTA study. So in reading the TIGTA study, TIGTA's background, they put in that they are seeing widespread use of ITINs to receive You'll have to bear with me a minute, folks. I think my mouse died. All right. Okay. Receive loans, open businesses. Some cities are allowing folks to use this as a tax number. Get a driver's license. Some states have enacted laws. New York is one of them. Allows immigrants to obtain a driver's license. New York City allows you to get a New York City ID. Obtain credit cards. Some financial institutions will actually use the ITIN to allow folks to open a credit card, a bank account, and establish a credit history. I have seen people obtain mortgages from local banks here and have mortgages and home ownership. So very interesting stuff. I'm going to get to what's important here in a minute. So W-7 applications by disposition, 20% of them seem to be rejected for one reason or another, maybe as much as a third. And totals in inventory are around $98,000 awaiting input, 98,000 awaiting input. And that number seems to be correct based on the 2 months that it's taking for them to turn around, which is to me is pretty good. Pretty good time. So TIGTA is saying that management's inaction, meaning the IRS, is resulting in insufficient oversight of certifying acceptance agents. Certifying acceptance agents are people like you and me who take additional training, pay a fee for some forensic training, and we have the authority to review original documents, foreign passports, and such, and foreign driver's licenses, and make a determination that in fact those are the originals and not fake. Enter information into the W-7 and sign off on it. This means that folks don't need to send in their original passport to the IRS in Texas and wait 2 months while they examine it to issue an ITIN. So TIGTA's argument since 2018 has been that you're not unlike e-filers and other practitioners, you're just not watching what the CAAs are doing. So currently there are 8,300 CAAs, some of which are located outside the United States. So everybody agreed that in 2020 and 2021, it just wasn't possible to do oversight. You're not going to go out into the field. You're not going to be able to go out and review records at a practitioner's location. Just not going to be able to. In 2022, only 16 foreign certifying acceptance agents were reviewed. That's it, 16, and only 25 in the United States. So out of 8,300, we looked at 41 people that year. Not a great number. About that percentage is up there about with how many S corps they examined. So now this was interesting too because I didn't know this existed. Apparently there are lists within the IRS of high-risk CAAs and people that are on probation. So what are you on probation? I cheated, but not enough? Yeah. So there's 47 people on probation and 154 high risk, and neither one of them, none of those were examined, those 200 people. And those 200 people represent 2.5% of the 8,300. So you would think that just in a random search, a random list, they would have captured at least one or two. Take-Two wants the IRS to agree to audit all high-risk CAAs. They said they would. Take-Two wants them to develop an online W-7 process to capture data. This would avoid typos, inability to read a paper document. So in other words, you, the taxpayer wanting an ITIN, or maybe the practitioner, are going to enter name, address, tax number, all this data. Well, first, that takes the input off the hands of the IRS, kind of like eFile did. But secondly, it's going to hopefully eliminate some of these other problems. So the IRS does not want to do that. They think security, inability to see the original documents, lack of standardization are all reasons to not do this. Take-Two would also like the IRS to develop an online tracking tool for applications so that you can see it's been received, it's been moved along, it's been reviewed. So that they agree that they're going to do. And with all this Inflation Reduction Act money out there, it's kind of hard not to do that, right? All right. So you know what? You're going to have to excuse me for a second. I've got to change the battery in the mouse, or I'm not going to be able to look at the Q&A. I know. It's just like that Ocean's 11, right? Where the good thing they brought the extra set of batteries. Hey, all right. So a quick question. If a worker has an ITIN when the 1099 NEC is issued, is the box for SSN left blank? No, because of widespread misunderstanding, people seem to be putting the ITIN in there. Same thing with W-2s, and your software flags it and says, wait a minute, that begins with a 9. That's not possible. So yeah, widespread misconceptions. Do you think HR 5119 will pass the entire Senate since it passed the House? So, of course, Cheryl must have opened her Christmas presents on Christmas Eve as a kid. Even if it passes, I don't know what it's really going to do for anybody. So we'll talk about it in a few minutes. Okay, so back to our friends with ITIN. So 5,534 tax returns. The IRS paid $10.9 million in erroneous, retroactive, refundable, and non-refundable tax credits. So remember that under the FAST Act, I think, you have to have the ITIN issued no later than the due date of the return. Otherwise, you can't get the credit. So I can't get, for example, a Social Security number on ITIN today while it was undocumented for the last 3 years and go amend 3 years worth of returns. You can't do that. You have to you have to have that number issued at the time you're going to claim the credit. But so the IRS is making mistakes in that they're issuing credits to people they should not. 5,129 of these were erroneous. $8 million, 2,157 claimed non-refundable credits for $2.8 million. Now, what's interesting here is I didn't take a look, but what's the size of the audit sample? So let's say that TIGTA is looking at, 50,000 returns, and they're finding this error rate. They're finding 5,500 in just those 50,000. So extrapolate that out. What's the potential number of errors here? Now, they also found the other way, and this is maybe more concerning, 2,519 tax returns with credits that should have been issued were disallowed. And we're working a case on one of those right now where folks, met the deadlines, did what they were supposed to do. The IRS bounced it, and now we're being bounced around between ITIN and processing, and it's going to end up in the Taxpayer Advocate's Office to get it fixed. So an interesting read. Those of you that are CAAs, watch for more audit activity. Tennessee storm victims, if you have clients that are in Tennessee and the listed counties, they get until June 17th to file anything that was due between December 9th and June 17th. The IRS released a long-anticipated voluntary disclosure program. So the objective here is anybody that has a questionable ERC claim and already got paid can give the money back. No questions asked. Programs available only until March 22nd. Now, to be honest with you, if they wanted better compliance, they would have made it available until May, or they would have rolled this thing out in November, because this just adds one more thing for us to do during tax season. Participants have to repay 80% of the claim. And this was chosen considering that many promoters charged fees up front. So it's acknowledging that we can't ask people to pay back 100% when they didn't get 100%. It's very interesting. So additional options, employers with pending claims, as you know, separate program, can opt to withdraw those claims by sending in a fax to that number. That was available in a previous program. I'm thinking we need to do another program. I didn't hear back from Jane Ryder, but we may need to do an hour on this program. So what's the eligibility criteria? Well, first, they can't be looking at you under criminal investigation, which would not be cool. You can't be under IRS employment tax examination for any of those periods, or at least for the period I guess you want to participate in. I didn't notice if it said, for example, I have a routine audit for 2022. That might preclude me from participating in those quarters, but I probably can still send my 2021 quarters in. You can't have received a notice in demand for repayment, and the IRS has not received third-party information indicating non-compliance. So if they've already arrested the promoter who did your returns, probably they've got information. They're not going to let you participate. That could be very interesting. So employers who want to withdraw or want to participate in voluntary disclosure, file new form 15434 using the document upload tool. There's a disclosure of any advisors or tax preparers that were involved in the ERC claim. Third-party payroll providers, if we outsource payroll obligations, the third-party provider has to file this. So if I were part of a PEO, my PEO applied and got the money, the PEO is the one you've got to get to do this. Upon IRS approval, they're going to send you a closing agreement. You have to pay the 80% on EFTPS. And if you need, you can do an installment agreement. But you need to do that, and you need to sign and send in the closing agreement. Purposes. That's really it in that program. Other than it's there, I think most people that have that credit think they were eligible for it, entitled to it, get to keep it, etc. So I don't know what we're necessarily going to do there. All right. So FinCEN has issued a final rule on access to beneficial ownership. Purpose of the rule is to let us know who's going to be able to access that file data. And that's been a question. I've made that joke before, about an hour into an investigation, Elliot Stabler has, on SVU, has pulled your credit report, pulled your tax returns, and figured out on your tax return what you've been deducting and not deducting, right? All within an hour. I have employees who couldn't do that, yet here's a New York City detective who can. So who's going to have access to these files and what are they going to be able to do with them? So authorized recipients are going to include U.S. federal agencies, which we knew from the beginning, and U.S. Treasury personnel. Now, the question there is still unanswered, that Treasury is a big place, right? Is that the IRS, because they're auditing my return and they want to build a roadmap? Is that limited to ATF and the guys who deal with money laundering and banking issues? We don't know. Each category of recipients, of course, has to follow the security and confidentiality protocols that have been outlined to them. Maybe we'll do a FOIA request, see if we can get those. All right. Agencies can access things for given reasons. State, local, and tribal agencies can get access with court authorization for criminal and civil investigation. So if New York State or your state's police department want to get access to something, they're going to need a court order. They can't just call up and say, hey, we need this. Foreign requesters subject to a treaty. Financial institutions are going to be permitted for customer due diligence requirements. So that's going to be interesting. If I sign off and say, yeah, I have no problem telling you who owns my company, what's in my BOI form, I'm going to sign off. They can go and look. So this is going to come down to some of the other problems we've had in the past with folks who, the mortgage processor runs an IVES report, pulls the tax returns, and they don't match, right? Well, now they're going to pull this and say, in the beginning, you haven't filed. We can't even prove who you are with CTA. So, you're going to get these panicked people in here demanding you file for them, demanding a transcript every day. Why doesn't it show up? Why doesn't it show up? So I think that might be a bad thing, at least in the beginning. Regulatory agencies and Treasury personnel, access for supervisory and compliance purposes and for tax administration. So supervisory and compliance purposes, I guess if I work there, they're going to be able to go and look at my records. Tax administration, again, that's interesting. Does that mean I'm under audit and as part of a background file, they go pull and say, Sheely's FinCEN ID, what's everything he's done? Are these his companies? So it's going to be interesting because that's not really what this is allegedly designed for. FinCEN, so security and confidentiality requirements. There's going to be standards made available by the domestic agencies. Financial standards are going to be developed by the financial institutions along the lines of Graham Leach Bliley. Foreign requesters are going to have to comply with our treaty agreement requirements and establish protocols. Yeah, Yvette. Don't forget the ones who are afraid to use direct deposit for refunds. What's the look they're going to give you when you want to scan their driver's license to send it to the government? Yes, Pat, I'm planning on doing these updates in 2024 still. I got to get to at least episode 100, right? So FinCEN, so on the final rule, there's redisclosure provisions that are limited to specific circumstances: internal sharing, regulatory oversight, international treaty compliance. There are penalties for violation of these internal rules. And this is going to be implemented starting with a pilot in 2024 and gradually allowing everybody and their brother to get access, I guess. So I'm a little scared about Big Brother and its information. Cheryl asked us previously about House Resolution 5119 that wants to make changes in beneficial ownership reporting requirements. Now, my reading of this bill is that it's going to give reporting prior existing entities 2 years to report. In other words, if my entity existed before 2024, I was originally going to have until 1/1 of 25. They want to give you 1 year further. They want to give newly formed entities 90 days rather than 30 days. For entities that changed, We want to give them 90 days to report the change instead of 30. Now, going back to other changes that have been made, they did early on, it was going to be 15 days to register, 30 days for a change to make the report. And cooler heads prevailed, and they said, you know what? Let's make it the same 30 days because we don't want to confuse people. So the same thing here. I think if one goes to 90, the other's going to go to 90. And they want to add an exception that allows a reporter to submit a report relating to the inability of the reporting company to obtain or identify information in the alternative to submitting a report required under this subsection. So I'm going to be able to tell you that I'm going to be able to submit a report that says I can't submit a report. It's not clear to me what they're looking to do here other than hide people. And I don't know that that's what we want to do. TIGTA had another report out this week that I thought was important to mention. The Office of Management and Budget issued guidance back in February that TikTok does not belong on any federal government device. Among other reasons, they're unsure. It's a Chinese-based company. They're just unsure of the security of the thing. It doesn't belong on government computers. So the IRS had blocked TikTok on its computers prior to this. October of 2022, it blocked it on 6,300 IRS cell phones, mobile devices. TikTok app is not available for download on any of these devices. Now, it gets better. TIGTA found that 23 mobile devices could still access TikTok. In May 2023, when TIGTA says, hey, you're going to look bad, they went back and fixed it. So BYOD is bring your own device. The IRS allows, in certain circumstances, employees to use their own device to access IRS resources. That's common. Most of us probably let our employees access the phone system and other things through their own device. But they had not updated their policy to say no TikTok on a phone that you're also using on IRS apps. Now, 2,800 members of Criminal Investigation Division and 2,800 mobile devices and 900 computers were exempted originally and allowed to access TikTok. CI, though, has not requested the exception nor blocked access. They feel that their investigators need access to TikTok for whatever reason. So TIGTA has said, first, we want you to go fix those 23 devices. The IRS did that. Second, they want them to work with Office of Management and Budget so that you're not using them on your BYO devices anymore. TIGTA wants CI to block TikTok access on all CI mobile devices and basically prove to OMB why those 900 people, 900 employees with computer access deserve an exception. So the IRS agreed with everything except blocking TikTok on the CI devices. They got to know something we don't know. I don't know why they think they need to do that. Especially like 400 or 600 of those CI agents are assigned to protecting the Treasury officials, right? Because they're the only armed folks within the IRS. So it's just interesting why they need that. Big announcement this week that the IRS is going to remove any penalties out there for 2020 and 2021 because somehow people might have not realized they owe the IRS. 4.7 million people, individuals, business, tax-exempt organizations, everybody affected by the pandemic. They think it's about $1 billion in penalties, average of $200 a return. Most of these beneficiaries of this relief will have annual income under $400,000. Nearly 70% of these people are under $100,000. So the pandemic giveaway continues, right? It's only $1 billion. So because of the pandemic, the IRS paused automated collection reminders. We know that. Despite the pause, failure to pay penalties continue to accrue. No kidding. How can you forget you owe the government? So reminder letters are going to go out where the IRS is sending this letter starting next month, notifying taxpayers of their total liabilities and the penalty relief that is coming. Account adjustments will then happen over a period of time between this December and next March. Relief is going to apply to taxpayers assessed taxes for 2020 and 2021 who received balance due notices between February of 2022, December of 2023. The $100,000 limit is going to apply separately to each return and each entity. So if you had back returns that didn't get in, darn it, we missed the cutoff, right? The relief is automatic. Failure to pay penalties are going to resume on April 1st, 2024 for those that were eligible for this relief. Taxpayers not eligible for relief can apply for it, such as reasonable cause and first-time abatement. I won't bore you with the details here, but the IRS has expanded the tax account access to businesses. Individuals, partners of partnerships, and shareholders of S Corps can access the business tax account along with sole proprietors. So new capabilities, business tax account transcript. Users can download PDFs of various transcripts, including the 940 series, highway use tax. S Corps can also get copies of their returns. Very interesting. The 1120S, the partnerships, they can get the 1065, the 8804, and you can view notices for sole proprietorships that have previously been issued. So this is going to be very interesting because it would be neat to understand how many times do you have somebody who says, oh, I can't get the K1 from this entity or that entity. I'm wondering what the threshold here is. Can I access it? I'm a 1% partner. Can I access it and get my partnership, my K1? I don't know, because I shouldn't be able to get everything, right? So we'll see how this rolls out. We'll see if cooler heads prevail. Must have filed a business return with a K1 and have had it processed. Eligibility requires a K1 for at least 1 year from 19 to 2022. Sure, because they're going to look back to that prior year and ask you to verify something on the return. Those qualified for access can use existing accounts that they link to their social security number. Sole proprietors without an EIN are not going to be able to use the system. Well, sole proprietors should have an EIN, in my opinion, anyway, and not give out their social security number. So there are some future enhancements listed here that are available. Standard mileage rates are out. 67 cents for a vehicle, up a penny and a half. Medical is 21 cents, down a penny. And charitable remainders are charitable organization mileage remains at 14 cents per mile. This is set by statute and not indexed for inflation. Mandatory electronic filing, as a reminder, drops from 250 to 10. You should not be mailing in anything, right? Nothing should be on paper unless you can't e-file it, right? Your 940s, your 1099s, everything should be electronic. There's a new 1099 portal. Yeah, Bruce is asking if those rates apply to electric cars, and my information is yes. So this is scary to me, along with direct file, which is that garbage in, garbage out. You know, we've seen in the past people, oh, I need a 1099. They go file their own 1099 to issue to themselves from a third party. And the next thing you know, the third party issues the 1099 and they have double the income reported. Some of this stuff should not be made available. So IRIS businesses can now e-file Form 1099 series information for free on the IRS website. It's open to businesses of all sizes, and it's available from last year forward. This isn't that new, although we're going to have all sorts of more people need to do it. You're not going to be able to type up your 1099s on your IBM Selectric anymore. All right. Flexible spending accounts increased by $150. You can put in a little bit more money in 2024 than 2023. Probably you know this because probably open enrollment has come and gone. But I just saw it released this week. I wanted to mention mandatory WISP, written information security plans. If you already had one, you need to update it. IRS publication 5708 has 29 pages on creating this. We also have a free webinar with Bill Nemeth, who outlines how to do that, along with Bill's handouts and templates. So take a look at that. If you renewed your PTIN, you checked a box that says you're aware of the requirement. I figure we're a year or two away from them saying you must have it, right? Right now, they're just saying you're aware of it, you're aware you're supposed to have it, but you're not certifying you have it yet. And then the last big thing that was out there is, I have three things on here. Oh, I wanted to mention data theft response. The IRS advises that you have a data theft response plan, including contacting the stakeholder liaison, and we have that. You actually have to do that within 24 hours, right, if you have a suspected data theft. You should also be using MFA, multi-factor authentication. We use it on everything. Our errors and omissions policy for 2 years now has said that data at rest must be protected by two-factor authentication, data at rest on the internet. So G, that means TaxDome. That means the remote desktop. That means anything that's on the internet. Our MailChimp account is now protected by two-factor authentication. If you're using a cloud hosting company that doesn't offer this, because there are several out there that don't even offer it, forget about charging you for it, run away. They're not compliant, and you're asking for trouble. Run away. All right, so a couple of comments. Let me do the Q&A, then we do the comments. Mark asks, a client had a late filed 2021 1065 that wasn't the first time, 843 with reasonable cause. No to abating the penalty. Well, Mark, first let me ask you something. If it's a partnership of 10 or less people, that they're all people, no corporations in there, no trusts, and all of those individuals filed their return on time, their personal return, you should be able to get Form 8435 relief, right? 8435 relief is automatic relief if they reported everything on their return. Otherwise, I have to go back and reread, right? If this falls under that or not, right? If the dates work based on when they got the notice. But I would see if the 8435 relief applies. You're going to tell me you already thought of that, I know, but I had to put that out there for everybody else. Katie says, make sure to review the WISP. Don't just copy and paste it. Like John's example of someone copying my engagement letter. That's true. Well, one of the things you have to have in there is the ID numbers of all the computers. Interesting here, I had to have a conversation with Nicole. I said, you know, you're number 2 on the list. She says, what list? I said, you're in charge if I'm not here in this data breach. And you're required to do that now. Oh, that's interesting, Richard. You're right. To get the 8435 relief, you need to have opted out of the centralized audit regime. But I think most of us with 10 or less partners, I think we're doing that anyway, Richard, simply because, you know, if there's an issue later and somebody has left the partnership, I want to make sure they're going to pay their share of the bill. You know? All right. That's it for me. Everybody have a great holiday. I will be here next week. If you can't make it next week, it'll be available on demand. So thanks again.